Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, distinguished guests, and folks of all stripes, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Your Houston Astros podcast for diehard Astros fans from a diehard Astros fan. I'm Paul Salazar Jr., screenwriter, improviser, Olympic hopeful, and multi-hyphenate. I'm a Houston native, born and raised in the H, where I led the charge to bring back Orbit after those dark Junkyard Jack days. I started Space Cadet Sports to be a blog and podcast with the new and refreshing perspective of actually liking the Houston Astros and being a fan of them. You know, the media always tends to be negative or doom and gloom because, you know, let's be honest about it, folks. Clickbait works for writers to make money. They gotta make money as writers. So, you know, I don't do the clickbait stuff because I'm not interested in making money. No, not because of that, but because I'm such a fan of the Astros. I don't want to make it clickbait-y. But, you know, I'm more of like a cool glass of water in a hot take sports environment. You know, not like cool, but like, you know, cool temperature, you know. These are going to be the logical takes and long-term takes in a crazy world of reactions. Well, you know, as logical as a crazy fanatic can be, right? All right, well, let's get to it, folks. It's late night here with Space Cadets here in helicoptery Los Angeles, where I am here late in studio. So yeah, please forgive me. I am absolutely exhausted, but I had to do a special podcast for the big trade for us here. I'm here with my sleepy co-host and co-producer, Carla the dog, the Ross to my Frasier, the sleepiest bear this side of the Mississippi, and my producer who told me to do my vocal warm-ups, but I was like, I don't want to do that. It's too late. I'm cranky. But I should have done them, folks. I should have done my vocal warm-ups. I doubt she will get on mic tonight as it's so late, and you know, she didn't do her vocal warm-ups either. But heads up, just in case you hear her, you know, that's her hot takes, her little barks there. But let's have a look at today's game, folks. So today the Astros played the first game of the series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Astros lose an unexpected bullpen game against the Pirates 5-3 with the trade to the Blue Jays that had yet to be announced over the game, just kind of hovering over the game the whole time. The trade was announced, and we'll talk about Kikuchi in the next act. But first, let's talk about this wild game. In an uh-oh moment, the Astros scratched Jake Bloss from the start and started the rumors circulating by going with a bullpen game led by Iron Man Taylor Scott. Our regular season opener, Sean Dubin, had just been sent down to AAA, and Caleb Ort was called, Caleb Ort. I try to pronounce that a little bit better for you folks out there. Was called up, so Scott got the nod against rookie sensation Paul Skenes and the Pirates. Taylor Scott was exactly what Taylor Scott had been all season, reliable. Scott went 3 innings pitched with 0 runs and 4 Ks and 0 walks. Scott made quick work of the 3 innings and helped get the bullpen off to a great start, with Caleb Ort coming in after that and getting 2 2/3 inning and looked to get out of his 3 innings as well, just as magnificently as Scott, but ran into a little bit of trouble with that last out, giving up a home run and eventually being lifted for Brian Abreu, who got the last out of that inning and went into the next inning, getting the hold and stabilizing this game for the Houston Astros. After that, Presley came in at the 8th and unfortunately blew a save, letting the Pirates tie the game, giving up a couple of walks and a couple of hits before getting out of his inning in the 8th there. And sadly, Josh Hader came in the 9th and lost the game, giving up a big home run and 3 runs in the 9th inning there. So, you know, we'll get to the offense a bit. Obviously, I let you know they lost 5-3. So, you know, just talking about the pitching end of it, it's I don't know what's been up with Hader and his home runs this season, but it has been frustrating. And and especially in this game where the bullpen holds it down and the back end of the pen gives up the game, these things are bound to happen. Relief pitching is tricky work. It's hard work. It's hard to be that consistent all the time. So, this happens, but it just is terrible that it's hubris that these two guys have really been struggling this season. Sometimes they're struggling at opposite times. Sometimes they're struggling at the same time. But it's been a bit of a seesaw. And they look to be improving, so let's hope that it's out of their system and they're going to solidify going forward. I'm praying. It's what the Astros need. This back end of the bullpen really needs to start executing to the standard that we have been hoping that they would execute at. Like I said, nobody can be perfect. Things happen, but it stinks when it kind of compiles on itself like this. So definitely, proud of the work the bullpen was able to give us here in this game with an unexpected scratch. But it just stinks that we were let down by the back end. On the offensive side, it was another struggle game. They struck out only 8 times in this game, however. So it wasn't the high strikeouts of some of the other games. They did get 9 hits, but once again, just kind of like in the beginning of the season, they could not bring any men home, leaving 10 men on base and going 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position. Bregman had a tough game and missed a home run by inches. They definitely wanted that one. They kind of challenged it so they could double check it, but it was not a home run. Just missed being a home run. Not having the best game in his LSU moment, going 1 for 5 with 2 Ks. The rest of the lineup, we're looking at them here. Altuve, Jordan, and backup catcher Victor Caratini all had 2 hits. And on the negative side here, Yainer Diaz and Trey Cabbage both had 2 strikeouts. This team can't afford to have that many bad games anymore. And 3 runs on this game seemed to be more than enough offense, but for how the pitching was going in the beginning of the game, at least I'm trying to say. But no lead is safe, and to assume that a 2-run lead is good is foolish. So, I'm not trying to say this was enough offense. I'm just saying it seemed like it would be enough, but they, unfortunately, the Astros back into the bullpen blew the game, and when that happens, you can't just be like, oh, well, we got 3 runs, that's good enough. Without a new bat being traded to this team, the Astros must continue to do this kind of pass the baton small ball that it's been doing lately until Tucker is back, or the bats get a little bit more consistent and have a little bit more pop to them. Aggressive swinging is going to be part of what the Astros do. That's part of their makeup. But when they especially when they see early strikes, but they're going to have to be more selective as accounts go on so they can keep getting on base and manufacturing runs and score hits when the home runs aren't going to be that prevalent, especially at home lately when Jordan has not been quite the slugger as he is on the road for some reason. The Astros are kind of beating those allegations of being bad at home, but this season Jordan just hasn't had the pop at home as he has other places. But it's not Jordan's fault. It's not anybody's fault. I'm just saying, until there is more power in the lineup, the small ball approach of passive baton needs to continue. We need hits in big moments, though, more than anything. Whether it's small ball or whether it's home runs, this team needs to get hits in big moments. They've done fairly well at that, but this team, when they're losing, any team, it's like, it's kind of like John Madden. He's like, oh, well, the football team lost the game because they didn't score as many touchdowns as the other team. When the Astros are losing games, they're not going to be knocking in runners in scoring position. That's usually why you're losing the games. But, it just seems like this team does have some really off nights. With the weird game out of the way, we'll see if the Astros do what they do best and bounce back and win this series going forward, because they're going to need to solidify their offensive strategy with late count patience and have their starters eat innings to rest the bullpen arms if they're going to want to do well against this team. They are in no mistake territory against the Pirates if they want to win this series. So, let's see how they do. And with that game out of the way, let's go ahead and get to what we what you probably tuned in for, or what we really wanted to do this podcast about, why we're here. We're talking about this incoming trade. Today I kind of rewrote this a couple different times. We knew the trade was happening for a second there. We knew it was going to be Kikuchi. We didn't know what they were giving up. So just bear with me here as I'm kind of going through these notes. It is past midnight here on the West Coast. I am absolutely exhausted. I'm going to do my best to power through this. Just apologies if there is a little bit of confusion here. I'll try to work through it with you. But as per all the sources, the team finally got around to formally announcing that they have traded for Yusei Kikuchi. Yusei Kikuchi. I believe it's Kikuchi, from the Toronto Blue Jays for a gang of prospects, which seemed to be headlined by Jake Bloss, who was scratched from today's start, outfielder Joey Loperfido, who has been a fan favorite, and Will Wagner, son of Billy Wagner, who should be a Hall of Famer, but is hopefully going to be a Hall of Famer soon. Billy Wagner, that is, not Will Wagner. It'd be great if, Will Wagner would be a Hall of Famer, but it would greatly change how we look at this trade, that's for sure. While I was on the podcast yesterday saying that we would get a mid-starting pitcher and we should be okay with that, I did say that yesterday. Go back, listen to the yesterday's podcast, especially if you're a diehard Astros fan. We're talking about winning that series against the Dodgers, talking about that Dodger walk-off home run, definitely talking some trash talk there, having a little fun on that podcast. Go back and listen to that. But, I was saying that we're going to get a mid-starting pitcher. When I was talking about the trade deadline, I was like, we'll probably get a mid-starting pitcher. And, honestly, we should be okay with that. But right now, in this moment, I'm still not feeling too great about this move. Obviously, we do need an inning eater, and Kikuchi fits that bill and is only on the books for this season and is cheap, and the price tag is really what just stinks for me too much at this time. I know most people are immediately upset by this, as Loperfido has been a fan favorite since he has been, since he had that one amazing month in the minors and hit a bunch of home runs, and he's been on the major league roster. Loperfido has proven to be an amazing defensive outfielder. He may have only played one inning at first base and was not exactly the first base platoon player some of us expected him to be, but he truly showcased that he is a natural outfielder and he has great defensive abilities out there. That catch he made when he dropped the ball out of his glove and barely caught the ball in his bare hand as he was falling himself might be one of my favorite catches this season, and now it might finally get the credit it deserves since Joey Loperfido is no longer an Astro. Everywhere you looked, it was getting a lot of play time there, but there's always a couple haters in the comments talking about what a terrible catch it actually is. Just a bunch of clownish haters. But now that Joe Lo is no longer part of the Astros, it will probably be praised as a great catch this season. While we are sad that Joey Loperfido is gone, and while I am kind of struggling with it a little bit, I do admit and do know that we needed pitching. So, we're going to kind of talk you through these emotions a bit on the podcast today. Joey Loperfido was one of the names reportedly named on X as one of GM Dana Brown's untouchables, with AJ Blueball and Zach DeZenzo, which is kind of a Bregman. The Zenzo's untouchable. They wanted to keep a third baseman. I didn't want to see Joey go either. This guy, he kind of looked like he had a tear in his eye as he was interviewed after the trade. Joey was an electric rookie, but let's remember that this team has like 300 outfielders. They took the one that is valued the highest. That is how trading works. No one was biting on Myers or McCormick or Cabbage because people watching baseball would want Loperfido out of this bunch. I mean, he's the youngest. He has multiple tools as a player. He's still very much unproven. He has a high strikeout rate, which is why I was really hesitant about bringing him up when we were having such terrible offensive woes. And trouble bringing people in with runners in scoring position, I was like, maybe we don't bring up a guy that strikes out this much. And while he has done good, that high strikeout rate has been something that I have been, very nervous about. I also, we still have Pedro Leon, who I suspected would be a key prospect that was traded away. And Leon has been called up to the Astros now that Joey Loperfido is gone. Pedro Leon has been knocking on the door for the majors for a bit here, and he was leapfrogged, actually, by Joey Loperfido. So, out of the bunch, Pedro Leon included in this outfielder bunch, Joey Loperfido was kind of the sexiest pick, and that's why he was the one pick to be traded away. But maybe Pedro Leon can provide the same spark that Joey Loperfido was giving us, and let's hope that Tucker, Kyle Tucker, actually comes back soon, so that we don't even have to really worry about much of this season. It hurts to lose both Bloss and Loperfido, and of course Wagner too, even though he hadn't cracked the major league yet, but that's why I'm kind of putting him in the sub-headline there. But sadly, it's a seller's market, and losing this group is just the price of doing business this year. People are saying we gave up a lot, but let's put some perspective on this and think about this being one of the only trades we could afford. Other teams have so much more and can afford to offer more. The Astros don't have that much capital. We talked about it last episode. This is the best arm we can get, and this is what we got. The fact of the matter is the Astros cannot survive this season without another healthy inning, healthy inning eating, veteran starter is what I'm trying to say, to help patch this rotation that is not going to have that many off days in the remainder of the season. I said that we were getting a mid-arm because of the market, dictating that's what we can get. I wasn't trying to say we're going to get a mid-pitcher because that's all we need. We don't even need that good of a pitcher. We just need a mid-pitcher. I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to say that GM Dana Brown doesn't want excellent pitching. I'm just saying that the way the market is set up and the way other teams have so much capital, the only thing we could afford would be a mid-market type thing. And, that's just what the Astros have to offer up. The market dictated we give up too much, and that's what we had to do. We had to give up too much to get the arm that we need. So going forward, the season will now be considered a success or a failure based off of this trade. But while Dana Brown may have given up too much, his hand was also forced by the lack of performance by his roster. Rafael Montero, Chas McCormick, Trey Cabbage were really our most likely organizational choices, the organizational choices to be moved, but they had not really played well enough to get any attention. And I feel like I kind of muddled that. When I say organizational choice, I mean that's who the Astros would have been okay giving up some of those names, but those names really didn't perform well enough to garner that much attention. So time will have to tell on this trade. If the Astros get to the playoffs, this trade will look good. The tough thing is to look at us trading away these players in the terms of what they have to offer us overall. But if we just look at it this season, we lost an electric outfield prospect who is most likely on his way to lose playing time or a roster spot with the return of Tucker, and a struggling rookie pitcher and a prospect who we probably wouldn't see till next season in Will Wagner. When you put it that way, to lose just that this season to help plug a hole in this sinking ship that has been the Astros' rotation all season seems to be a very logical move. Now, I fully admit the trade feels a little terrible when you start looking ahead to next season, when we really could use the help of some of these young players with not a lot of known commodities coming down the pipeline. It feels tough, I know, but let's look to the trades of the past and look at how the prospects the Astros have lost and how that has hurt us. And it's kind of, when you're thinking about it, it's what are those big prospects we lost? Not too many people come to mind. Josh Rojas is probably the biggest name. I think Josh Rojas is great, but sometimes prospects they're prospects. They're not known commodities quite yet. They are just hope that you're selling. You're selling hope. Like Astros prospect David Hensley. He was just picked up by another team. I forgot to write it down right here, but David Hensley was picked up by another team because he was just DFA'd by the Astros to make room on the 40-man roster. And it was just last season when David Hensley made the opening roster, and he was in competition to start second base because of the Tuve injury. And he was even a meme king when he caught that Megan Thee Stallion opening pitch, in a pitch that I promise you I'll never forget. I mean, she's a baddie. And Hensley struggled to get on the team, and now he's starting again somewhere else. And best of luck to Hensley. I don't bring him up specifically to beat on him as much as to say that, he was a prospect. He made it to the majors. He had success at the majors. He was up and down for a little bit, and at some point, we had first baseman troubles, and David Hensley just was not brought up. You just really don't know what you're going to get out of a prospect to him. So best of luck to David Hensley. We wish him success. I'm not trying to beat up on him. I'm just bringing it up to say that the road to the major league isn't linear. It's very hard to track for most players. Not most players aren't just an inevitable. Bring them up to the show when they win Rookie of the Year or they, win World Series MVP in their rookie season. You don't know what a lot of prospects are going to be. So time will have to tell with Loperfido, Bloss, and Wagner. Right now, it stings because the price was steep. But I guess my question is, should the Astros just not have gotten any starting pitching when it's obvious we need some? Or is the price of executing a trade in a seller's market worth it? What other mid-pitchers could we have gotten for a team willing to trade with us for less? And I know I have to eat my words when I say we didn't need starting pitching earlier this season, but the reason I was saying that is because I was talking about roster construction in the offseason when we thought more pitchers would come back from injury and less pitchers would go on the IL. That was a different time of the season. Now times are different. We know how many pitchers are going to be injured. We know what our roster looks like going forward. We know generally what this roster can do for us. We need a starter. And sadly, this is what it cost. Will it be worth it? Right now, only time will tell. Obviously, some wins and a Pedro Leon slugfest would help us out significantly, though. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and call it for this episode of the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Thank you so much for listening to this special episode of the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, Late Night with Space Cadet. We very much appreciate it. We're excited about the Houston Astros season going forward. This is definitely a tough trade to see Joey Loperfido go, but if we can get Pedro Leon up, helping out in the offense, if we have good offensive outfield depth like we've had all season, we should be good. But most importantly, we need Kyle Tucker back. So everybody say your apologies, say your prayers, be a good person to your neighbor, do all that good stuff because we need Kyle Tucker back from injury. We need Justin Verlander and Luis Garcia back from injury. We need to be 100% healthy right now because this team needs all hands on deck. Just definitely thank you for listening. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening to us on. Share this podcast with a fellow Houston Astros diehard fan. Let them know that we're out here talking about the Astros, talking about your team, your favorite team, and the golden era of Astros baseball. If you want to reach out to me on social media, reach out to me at Paul Salazar JR on all social media platforms, or at least all the cool ones. Or if you want to see just pictures of Carla, you can find her on Instagram at good.dog.carla. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. We appreciate it. And as always, vamos Astros.